Of this key to the 7 diminished 7.
I mean, this is really the concept, which is both Karen and what I thought you were doing, Shara, what I put up here, which is slightly different, are the same basic concept, which is that this chord could be 7/7 of two keys that are a tritone apart of one another, right? So the 7/7 of F is the 7/7 of B. It's the same chord. The 7/7 of 4 in F, which is essentially saying the 7/7 of B flat, is also the 7/7 of E by that process of enharmonic respelling. All right, James, what's your other idea?
Could you use a 2 fully diminished 7 in F minor, like a G fully diminished 7, and respell that as the 7/7 of B maybe?
No,
it's not.
because here's the thing, like, there is no such thing as a 2 fully diminished 7.
Right.
And in fact, what you just said is the same as this. Because if you turn the G, the 2 chord, into a fully diminished 7 chord, it's not a 2 chord anymore.
No, it's that.
Yeah, it's just this. So if I play F minor, and then I play this chord, that's not a 2/7, a diminished, it's a 7/7, right? Because that's what we're used to hearing it as. The only thing that makes a fully diminished 7 sound like it has a root is the context of the chord, right? So a G fully diminished 7 is the same chord as an E fully diminished 7, which is the same chord as a B flat or A sharp fully diminished 7, which is the same chord as a C sharp or D flat fully diminished 7. They're all the same chord. As a matter of fact, there's only 3 fully diminished 7 chords, right? There are only 3 different ones. Each can be interpreted in 4 different ways, which is an incredibly powerful tool for modulation. Because if you want to modulate between extremely remote keys, and basically the 2 most extreme remote things are a tritone apart or a half step apart. Like, those have the least in common. So if you want to modulate between the 2 of those, it's really useful to be able to go in any direction. Like, basically a 7/7 chord can resolve in 4 different ways, which I think we did do an exercise when we first talked about the common tone diminished 7th chords. I said, hey, they can resolve in these 4 different ways. And then we found out that it could actually resolve in 8 different ways,
or
right?
12, or who knows, I don't know.
I think once we included major and minor as possibilities, they could go there. So it's a very powerful chord in that particular sense. Now, a progression, go ahead.
So what are the 3, you said C sharp, D flat, B flat, A sharp, and did you say G or E or?
Wait, the 4.
I don't know, not the 4 different ways to resolve them, but like you said, there are only 3 different diminished.
Oh yeah.
chords.
So there's ones that have C in them, there's ones that have C sharp in them, and there's ones that have D in them. Any of those could be respelled enharmonically, right? But that's probably the easiest way of thinking about it, because you could spell them in a bunch of different ways.
Okay.
But one type of fully diminished 7th chord will have a C in it.
Okay.
Another type will have a C sharp or a D flat in it. Another type will have a D in it.
Okay.
But then that's it. Those are the only ones.
Okay. So okay, I don't know. You said something before about like the C sharp versus the D flat. I think pertaining to this example, the B flat, the A sharp, and then I thought I heard a G, but okay. So, yeah, it's okay.
Yeah. I think you asked a question that was different from what I was saying before. Yeah.
Could be. Yeah. Thanks.
Okay. So the progression that I wrote out here was a very quick one to get from one place to another. So I'm in F minor, and then you get this 7/7 chord. Let me think through how I want to voice this.
Sounds
Yeah,
very
so for
cool.
example, if you're in F minor, then you go to the 7/7 chord, but then I reinterpreted that as 7/7 in the key of B, and then I go, there we go. 1 6 in B, and then 2 6, 1 6 4. No. 5 7 1. All right, let's see if I can put that together without the errors. Surprisingly smooth for being a tritone apart. Why? Because this chord is something that's expected, and then this resolution is not unexpected either, right? And now we're like, oh, I know this territory, you know? And you slip from one place to another, which is the thing you can do with it.
I just find a lot of impressive modulations like that in specifically like concerto movements, going from one movement to another where there's a big key change or whatnot, and just like what composers come up with is very creative. Like Rachmaninoff's second concerto going from C minor to E major does it very, very like weird but smooth in a way. Like,
Yeah, for sure. Well, the further you get into the 19th century, and in the case of Rachmaninoff, Rachmaninoff is very much still composing in the spirit of the 19th century, but doing it well into the 20th century.
certainly.
And by that point, it's like the idea of this kind of chromatic exploration was so baked into the style that it's almost like any piece that doesn't find a cool new modulation is like, what are you doing? You know, it's like not innovative anymore. So yeah, I mean, there's all sorts of ways to use those things, and honestly, like when you study it, it's like, whoa, this is complicated. But when you listen to it, a lot of times it's just seamless, right? So like the craft of the composer kind of just smooths it over. So unless you're paying like very, very close attention and you have a ton of training, it just goes, you know, like, and it just goes from one place to another. And really, I find that it's only once you start trying to make them work yourself, and you're like, wow, that sounds terrible, like then that you realize how hard it is to do something like get from F minor to B major. But this is the process, like actually working out. If you had that chord progression that I just played, and then you wanted to write a passage doing that, it would still be challenging to figure out what to do. Like, if you had a melody over the top of that, how does the melody transition from one key to another so that you don't feel like that sense of just, like, I'm in one key, now I'm in another key. But having this as a backdrop to it is really very useful. And it is also interesting to me, it seems like, so in jazz harmony, the interesting thing about jazz harmony is that the idea of key is quite different from the idea of key in other approaches to tonal music, because the key changes all the time. So very, very rarely do you have more than a few chords in a row that suggest the same key. Sometimes, a lot of times, the melody will be in the same key from the beginning to the next, but the best way of analyzing the chords is actually to be like, well, that's a 2-5 in this key, and then it's a 2-5 in this key, and then it's a 1-6-2-5 in this key. And then, you know, other than jazz, a lot of the tonal music of the last 100 to 150 years hasn't really modulated all that much, right? It's just like how you get from one key to the next hasn't been as much of a concern of people working in a tonal medium. But there's no reason that can't be the case, you know, it's fun to experiment with. Sophia?
Could you say the progression again? So you go from F minor, 7-7 to 4, then...
Yeah, so what I played right there was, I started on the one chord in F minor, and then I went to the 7-7, which was reinterpreted.
Oh, so you played both, okay.
So it's the same chord, right? So it's just reinterpreted. A pivot chord is not played twice.
Right,
It's
okay.
just, you hear it as one thing going in and another thing going out.
Oh.
Right? And then I went to 1-6, 2-6, 1-6-4, 5-7, 1.
why I was confused. I thought I was hearing 2 fully diminished 7th chords.
No?
Two.
Yeah, it's just the fully diminished 7th chord is reinterpreted. Okay. Any other questions on that one? I like that one. All right. E major to F major using an enharmonically respelled French 6. I feel like I had to I had this exercise in my notes from a previous semester, so I gave it to you, and then I worked out just while you started doing it, what the best way of doing it, or simplest way of doing it, and this is the one I had to work the hardest on. You got that?
I mean, yeah, like, I know we said that the 5/7 flat 5 of a 5/4/3, so I didn't have the chord picked out yet, but that's where I was gonna go. And then I got, it was,
5/7 flat 5 of a 5/4/3.
that you said was like the equivalent of a French augmented, 6 chord.
Okay, so what are you weren't sure yet?
I
That's
thought,
the territory you were thinking.
yeah, that's the
about.
territory, so
Yeah.
like the 5 in this key, was B, so then I was thinking a F sharp 7 flat 5 over C sharp. But I wasn't sure yet.
Okay,
That was
well,
where-
F sharp 7 flat 5 over C, not C sharp,
Oh,
right?
okay,
So if you think about, so since I gave you the hint of enharmonically respelling the French 6, the first thing you could think about is,
Lay.
all right, I've got, what are the notes in the French 6? Well, there's gonna be a C, right, the lay in the key of E, and then you're gonna have an A sharp, the Fi. All augmented 6 chords are gonna have the lay and the Fi. And then for the French, you have Do and Re, so you'll have E and F sharp in that chord. So you're going to have that, but as we saw, you can reinterpret it as a 5/7 flat 5. And I think you don't mean of 4/3, it's just in 4/3.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, of the
In second
5/4/3.
Yes, exactly.
Like so it's not a secondary, it's not an altered dominant in secondary dominant, I could do it.
It's not a secondary dominant, it's just an altered dominant in second inversion.
Oh, okay, so, got it, okay.
So anyway, if we think about that as being a dominant, right, an F sharp 7 flat 5 chord.
Yeah.
The thing with that one is it's actually exactly the same. So
Right.
both of them resolve to a B chord. So here's a French 6 resolving to 5. Actually, I know what you're saying now about the of 5, because then if I think of it as an F sharp 7 flat 5 of 5 in 4/3,
That's what I
then
think we
it
have.
goes to the B chord too. So really that wouldn't be enharmonically reinterpreting it,
Oh,
because
okay.
they're essentially the same chord with 2 different labels.
Oh,
And
I
that's the
see.
one that I was telling you, in that particular case, I prefer just to call it a French augmented 6.
Yeah.
Because if we don't, I don't even know why the label for French augmented 6 exists. So,
Okay.
yeah.
So then would it work the 5/7 flat 5 in second inversion, or no?
It is in second inversion. It's just that the idea is that it wants to go to a B chord either way.
Okay, so that works, that's an option.
But it doesn't
No,
help us get to our
It doesn't, okay, forget about it.
All right, other,
I thought it could like just be the 5/7 flat 5 and go to an F, because we have the same notes, C, E, G flat, and then B flat.
James, is that what you did?
Yeah, I had a 5/7 flat 5 of 2 in E, which is C sharp 7 flat 5, which would be the same as, because C sharp and D flat are enharmonic, and D flat is lay and F.
Okay, so 2 different ones. Let's think through both of these. So Karen's, which is I think the more straightforward of them. So we started in E, then you went to the French augmented 6, right?
Mhm.
And then you reinterpreted the French augmented 6
5/7.
as 5/7 flat 5 in, wait, is it?
But that's what I mean, like
second
it's in
version?
root position, like.
No, it is, you're right, it's in
yeah,
root
yeah.
position. 5, 7, flat 5 in the key of F, and then you could just go to F.
Yeah.
Right?
Mhm.
So that is the one that I did here, and then just to, I guess I went to a 1, 6, 4, 6 first, just to kind of establish.
From a 1 to a 4, 6?
Yeah. Do it that way. Okay, so if you went from 1, 4, 6, French augmented 6, but then you treated that as 5, 7, flat 5 in the key of F, then it just resolves to the 1, and then there. That one's more jarring, I think. It's less of a smooth transition, but I think that's just kind of in the nature of the chords itself.
What did you just play? The 1 to the 4, 6 to the
played-
French?
Yeah, so 1, 4, 6, French augmented 6, reinterpreted as 5, 7, flat 5 in the key of F. 1, 2, 6, 1, 6, 4, 5, 7, 1. In other words. One, 4, 6. Oh yeah, I shouldn't have gone to the 1, 6, 4 there. Really, that's one too many beats. So just 2, 6, 5, 7, 1. By the way, you want your cadential chord to be on a strong beat. So when I used a 1, 6, 4, I guess I already erased that chord progression, but when I used a 1, 6, 4 before, it was so that the 1 chord would arrive on a strong beat. Here, when I was just playing through, I guess I just lost track of what beat I was on. But if I play a 1, 6, 4 chord on beat 2, then I get my 5, 7 chord on beat 3, and then my 1 chord arrives on beat 4, which is not what you want.
Is that why you always have like quarter note, half note, often?
Yeah. At the final phrase. Usually the cadential chord in 4/4 is going to either arrive on beat 1 or beat 3. So it could arrive on beat 1, but if it's not quite there yet, then it can arrive on beat 3 as well. Let me play the progression one more time, just so we can do it properly. Okay, done.
The French augmented 6 is always, when going to like a modulating to a different key, it's always based on the original key.
So yeah, really what we're saying here is that when we encounter this chord, that we're thinking of it as a French augmented 6 chord, because that's a pattern we're familiar with.
And the key is E, right?
Yes, so the notes in that chord
Oh, great.
are going to be C, E, F sharp, and A sharp. But we reinterpret that as a 5, 7, flat 5 in the key of F, which would be C, E, G flat, B flat. So we enharmonically respell the F sharp as a G flat and the A sharp as a B flat. Okay, so notice, I mean, it's interesting because it's like the 5, 7, flat 5 kind of is symmetrical in the way that the 7, 7 is, except that you can't do it 4 different ways, you can only do it 2 different ways. So, in other words, this collection of notes can be an F sharp 7, flat 5, or a C7 flat 5. Right? So it's two French augmented 6 chords, a tritone, I'm not French augmented 6 chords, two dominant 7 flat 5 chords, a tritone apart from one another. But you can't take the other notes and say, oh, can I make it an E7 flat 5? No, it doesn't work that way. So it's like somewhat symmetrical. That's not a great term for it, but it's not a technical term to call it somewhat symmetrical. I don't even know what that means, but it kind of makes sense in this case because the fully diminished 7th chord is fully symmetrical, meaning that every single note could serve as the root. But this particular collection of notes, 2 of the notes could serve as the root. By the way, composers and theorists have been fascinated by these like more symmetrical structures for a long time, and there are comprehensive lists of all of the musical objects, meaning like chords or scales, that can be transposed fewer than 12 times. So like if you take a major triad, you can transpose it 12 times and it doesn't have reproduced the pitches of any other, right? So there are 12 different major triads that you can have. There are 12 different minor triads. There are 12 different dominant 7th chords. But there's only 3 fully diminished 7th chords, right? There's only 2 whole tone scales. You can only transpose it once. There's only 1 chromatic scale, because if you transpose the chromatic scale, it's got all the same notes as the one that you just transposed. So anything that's transposable fewer than 12 times, so this one, there's 6 of them, right? But then they just reset. So you got 6 and 6 in terms of those particular musical objects. The French composer Olivier Messiaen called them modes of limited transposition, which he cataloged. Like they're all scales, like the scales that you can transpose fewer than 12 times without reproducing the same notes in them, which to him had like some sort of mystical significance that he liked to play around with. But they are certainly interesting, and you can do interesting things with them, because as soon as they could be, not being able to transpose them 12 times means they can be reinterpreted as something else. You know what I mean? So if this can be reinterpreted as this, it can go in a different direction. And that's precisely what's happening there. Yes.
So this is why I asked you in the homework for number 10, harmonized. Is this why there's a distinction between the 5/7 flat 5 and the 5/7 sharp 5 in terms of transposition?
Well, so the 5/7 sharp 5 is really a completely different tool.
Yeah.
Yeah, so in that particular case, I'm just going by the instructions that I wrote a long time ago. So I'm specifically asking for those with flat 5 for some reason, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't know if you meant just like generally like an altered dominant.
No,
but like,
no.
Yeah.
So once if I said use 2 altered dominants, then it could be either.
Yeah.
If I said specifically use 2 dominant 7 flat 5s, then that's what you want.
Okay.
James?
Yeah, I was confused about that too, because I don't think the figured bass has any sharp 5 chords. I think it's all flat.
But that one's a melody
It's-
harmonization.
that's why
I know both ways. I was like, oh, why aren't we doing the sharp 5? We learned about that too.
Oh, I see.
And
I see. Gotcha. So the
and-
sharp 5 is not in there.
And
Okay.
I found like a sharp 5 harmony, so that's why I would
You
know.
can use it. You
I
absolutely
can, in
use it.
addition.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay.
I don't. To be perfectly honest, I don't remember why I
Yeah,
said it
yeah,
that way. There are also other ones on the list that I'm not asking you to do. Because there's one with a remote modulation that I use figured bass for, and I feel like it has a bunch of mistakes in it because it was such a nightmare to write the figures for that, and I think I made a few mistakes, and then eventually I was like, I'm just not going to ask people to do that one. But so really, after 9 and 10, which are the ones that you should be close to finished, there's only 2 more. Exercise 12 and exercise 14 are the last 2 that you're going to do.
Oh, we're not doing 11 or
No.
13?
No.
Okay.
You can try them if you want, but at least one of those I remember has some errors in it.
Okay.
Okay. So let's see, James, you had another solution for this one. which I'm
Yeah, so
curious
I was
about.
thinking the other way around, using something in E to reinterpret an F as the French augmented 6. So I used the
Okay.
5/7 flat 5 with 2 in E, which is C sharp 7 flat 5.
Okay, so 5/7 flat 5 of 2. 2 is F sharp, right? So we're thinking, as you said, C sharp 7, flat 5. The notes in that one be C sharp, E sharp, G, and B flat. And then if you're thinking about this, you're thinking about that as the French augmented 6 in, oops, that's not the way you write that, in the key of F. Then we would think of that as being D flat, F, G, and B.
Oh,
Yeah, it doesn't work.
doesn't work.
I thought it worked for a second, because 3 of the notes work, but it's actually, one of the notes is different there, right?
If it was just a C, if it was just a 5/7 of 2, would it work? If it didn't have, oh no, it's the G. Oh no, it's the B flat, which is the 7.
Wait a second.
Wait, isn't it a B natural? Isn't it C?
Oh yeah, no, you're right.
Oh, it's not a diminished,
As soon as I
yeah.
did, I was like, something is wrong here. This doesn't
It's
make
not a
sense. But
diminished.
yes, you are correct. So it does work. So D flat, F, G, B. Yeah, my bad. I made that a diminished 7th instead of a minor 7th. So we get that. And then we get this. And then we read. So then I went to 164. That's it. Oh, that's pretty cool. Make that. Yeah, totally works. Another thing you could maybe do. Yeah, I almost want to hear it like in some sort of chromatic descent, like. Just to kind of, my left hand is still in D. So just to kind of smooth over that progression. So what I did there was 1, 5, 6, 5, 5, 2, and 4, 4, oh sorry, 4, 6, and then to the 5, 6, 5 of 5, 6, 5 of 2, then 1, 6, 4 in the key of F, 5, 7. Cool. Yeah, the great thing about this is that I didn't have that one in mind, right? So it's like there's a process of discovery here. I suppose it's theoretically possible to come up with every possibility, but I've certainly never seen anyone present it that way. I've never seen a theory textbook that presented the possibilities like here's every possible way that you could use an enharmonically respelled French augmented 6 chord or any secondary one to get anywhere you want. Has every possibility been explored somewhere? A good chance of it. There's been a lot of music written, right? But there's still things to be discovered that are very, very interesting and fresh. So we kind of are moving with all of these things, as we have been all semester, away from the security of 5, 7 goes to 1. And more into like, what are the possibilities? How can I use these possibilities in different ways to get from one to the other?
That's too much, that's too much.
Wait, there's another,
Oh, no, these are not,
you,
oops, sorry. No, that's fine.
you're good with that?
Yeah.
That's like, Carly, that doesn't work.
Could we, let's see, could we make this so that we're across more?